Part 1, The Signal That Shouldn't Exist. London slept only in theory. Out in Camden, the night was a wet sheet of neon reflections, rain skimming across rusted drainpipes, the entire district humming with the usual cocktail of exhaust fumes, late-night chatter, and the low bass from underground pubs. Inside his narrow flat above a vinyl shop, Ethan Harper stared at the blinking cursor on his laptop like it was a loaded gun pointed straight at him. He had spent the last 4 hours replaying a 30-second video submitted anonymously to BBC Panorama, an offshore rig worker screaming before the camera dropped into the sea. Every time, the audio glitched on the same frame, and a voice whispered through the distortion. Harper. He told himself it was pareidolia. Stress? Lack of sleep. But he wasn't stupid enough to believe that. At 2:14 a.m., his phone vibrated on the desk. The sound was sharp, wrong, like something striking a church bell underwater. Ethan frowned. Signal, the encrypted app he only used with sources in war zones, lit up with a single unread message. Sender, Ronnie Doyle. The name hit him like a punch. Ronan Doyle, the ghost from his old investigation about military cover-ups in the 80s. A man so paranoid he refused to speak near any electrical outlet, and once forced Ethan to interview him inside a moving taxi to avoid triangulation pulses. They hadn't spoken in 12 years. Ethan opened the message. They are calling my name from the deep. 30 years I kept silent. I shouldn't have. Meet me at the Anchor and Crown. Plymouth. Midnight tomorrow. Bring cigarettes. And a gun. A chill spidered down Ethan's spine. Ronan had always been unstable, but this wasn't madness. This was fear, pure, seasoned terror from a man who once laughed while describing a shark biting off half his dive partner's leg. Ethan typed back. Ronnie, what's going on? Who's calling your name? No reply. A second message arrived instead. A grainy selfie taken in what looked like the cabin of a decaying fishing boat. Ronan's face was pale, drenched in sweat. One blue eye bulged unnaturally, as if being pulled outward by invisible fingers. The other stared dead into the camera. In the dim cabin lights, the old diver's throat pulsed, like something moved beneath the skin. His expression was not fear. It was resignation. Attached was one final line. If I go missing before you get here, it wasn't the drink. Don't trust the sea. Ethan sat frozen, heart thumping in his throat. He should delete the messages, block the number, report nothing. But journalistic instinct, the same force that once kept him alive in Libya, clawed its way to the surface. He grabbed his coat. Tomorrow, he was going to Plymouth. Even if something in his gut screamed he would regret it. Plymouth 24 hours later. The sky looked bruised, purple clouds sitting low over the harbor like rotting flesh. The wind tasted metallic. Ethan zipped up his jacket and walked along the slick cobblestone path toward the Anchor and Crown, a whitewashed pub battered by decades of salt wind. The building leaned slightly, as if trying to escape the sea behind it. Inside, the air was a blend of fried fish, cheap rum, and mildew. A battered jukebox whispered some forgotten folk tune about dead sailors. 3 fishermen hunched at the bar, silent, faces pale as anchor rope. Ronan Doyle sat alone in the darkest booth. He hadn't aged, he had decayed. The former Royal Navy diver, once built like a harpoon, now looked hollow. His hair was grey straw. His neck still bore the iconic crescent scar from the shark attack of '82, but the skin around it was darker now, bruised, as though recently strangled. His right hand trembled against his pint glass. When he saw Ethan, his eyes didn't soften. They widened in a sharp, instinctive panic, like prey spotting a shadow above the water. You came, Ronan muttered. Good. Means you still hear them. Ethan Saturday, Ronnie, what's happening to you? Ronan leaned forward. The sour smell of rum wafted off him. He clasped Ethan's wrist with surprising force. "They know your name, Ethan." "My, what? Who?" Ronan glanced toward the windows facing the harbor, where black waves crashed against the seawall. "The gatekeepers." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Start from the beginning." Ronan took a long drink before speaking, voice low and broken. 1982, Isles of Scilly. Government contract. They told us it was a recovery mission, retrieve a body, British Mafia, disposed of at sea. Cement blocks on the man's legs. Standard quiet cleanup. He closed his eyes as if the memory hurt physically. But the moment we reached him, he opened his eyes. Ethan felt the hair rise on his arms. "Ronnie, corpses can twitch, you know that." "These didn't twitch." Ronan slammed the table. "Ethan," this bastard screamed. "Under 120 feet of water. I felt it in my teeth." And his eyes. He shuddered. They were black. No whites. No reflection. Like staring into a bottomless well. The pub's lights flickered. Ronan continued. Sam Carter, diver in training, grabbed the body bag. The corpse bit straight through Carter's glove. Tore off 3 fingers. His breath hitched. We ascended in panic. The corpse kept sinking, like something below was reeling it home. "What did the Navy do?" Ethan asked softly. "They sealed us in quarantine for 2 weeks." Carter never recovered, kept screaming. Someone was whispering inside his skull. A month later he drowned himself in his bathtub. Ronan's voice cracked. "Government classified everything. Threatened to sink every member of my family into the same damn trench if I spoke." He leaned closer. "That thing in the water, it wasn't dead. It wasn't alive either. It was a warning." Ethan swallowed. "You said they are calling your name. You mean, those things?" Ronan shook his head. "Not things. 1 king. 3 heads. The leviathan." The pub went silent. Even the old fisherman stopped breathing for a second, as though the name had mass, heavy and forbidden. Ronan rubbed his temple, breathing unsteadily. "Every night for a month, I hear voices from the water. Whispering Latin. Whispering my name. And 2 nights ago, it started whispering yours." Ethan felt cold creep down his spine. "Ronnie, you need help. You need a doctor." Ronan slammed something onto the table. A USB stick. Matte black. No brand. "This isn't madness, boy. This is evidence." Ethan stared at it. "What's on it?" Ronan's lips trembled. "What's left of the truth. And what will kill us both if we don't move fast." Before Ethan could respond, the front door creaked open. A gust of freezing air swept through the pub, extinguishing 2 candles on the counter. A fisherman muttered, "Christ have mercy." But no one had come in. The door simply opened on its own. Ronan gripped Ethan's arm, nails digging into skin. "They are listening," he whispered. "From where?" Ronan slowly lifted a shaking finger. Toward the sea outside. Walking back into the dark. After an hour of decoding Ronan's fragmented warnings, Ethan followed him out into the night. The tide had risen unnaturally high, the waves smashing against the seawall with rhythmic violence. Thunder growled overhead even though no storm was forecast. Ronan pointed at the harbor. A dead seagull floated in the water, but it wasn't drifting naturally. It circled in place, as if caught in a whirlpool invisible to the eye. Ronan whispered, "They are waking." Ethan tried to steady his breathing. "I'll look at the USB tonight. I'll call you after." "No," Ronan clutched Ethan's shoulder. "You look at it far from here. Far from the coast. The deeper you go inland, the quieter they become. Who is they, Ronan? Ethan demanded. Is this OSIU? Some classified experiment? Ronan's face twisted in fear. It's older than OSIU. Older than England. Older than the Atlantic. We were trespassers in their realm the moment we built ships. Another wave crashed, spraying cold water across their legs. Then Ronan's expression changed, twitched, like a puppet string was yanked inside his skull. His pupils expanded until his eyes were nearly black. His voice dropped to a guttural whisper Ethan didn't recognize. Ethan Harper, the blood in your heart belongs to us. Ethan stumbled back. Ronnie, stop. You're scaring me. Ronan blinked rapidly, gasping for air as if surfacing from a deep dive. I didn't, Ethan, I didn't say that. It wasn't me. The wind howled. Ethan backed away. Ronnie, I'm going home. I'll call you after I decrypt the files. Ronan nodded weakly. And Ethan? Yes? Do not answer, if the sea calls you. London 3 hours before dawn. Back in his Camden flat, Ethan set 3 locks on the door, pulled the curtains, and placed the black USB on his desk like it was a relic from a cursed shrine. He hesitated. Then he plugged it in. Inside were only 2 files. VID 1988_the_swimmer.mp4 and RLYEH UK_digsite_1996.move. His blood ran cold. Both titles matched claims Ronan had made years ago, claims Ethan dismissed as conspiracy-mad rambling. He clicked the first video. A Navy helicopter camera shook wildly over a raging storm. Waves the size of buildings crashed beneath it. In the center of the chaos, a man swam. Not struggling. Not sinking. Just swimming. Calm. Effortless. In a straight line toward the camera. Wearing nothing but blue swim trunks. No boat. No land. Middle of a Category 12 storm. The swimmer raised his head. His eyes were black. His jaw unhinged slightly, as though preparing to speak. The audio crackled. And then, through static, Ethan. The video cut out. Ethan clutched the desk, breath hitching. He shouldn't have heard that. That video predated his birth by 4 years. A soft sound trickled in from outside his flat. Drip. 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 Water. Somewhere it shouldn't be. Ethan stood, heart hammering. He opened the curtains. Outside, on the rain-polished street of Camden, every puddle was rippling, not from rain, not from cars, not from wind. They rippled in sync. In perfect circles. Like something beneath the asphalt was breathing. Ethan backed away. He didn't see the shadow in the puddle behind him slowly rise. He didn't hear the whisper forming his name. But he felt it. In the marrow of his bones. The deep had begun calling him too. Part 2, the files that should have stayed buried. Ethan didn't sleep. He sat at his desk as dawn crept into Camden, weak sunlight slicing across the room like a scalpel. But the warmth did nothing to thaw the cold coiling through his veins. The USB remained plugged into his laptop, its lead blinking, slowly, rhythmically, as if syncing to a heartbeat. Not his. Something else's. He rubbed his eyes and whispered to himself, just paranoia. Just exhaustion. But the puddles outside his window had rippled in unison. And the whispered Ethan, from the 1988 video, had scraped across his skull like a nail dragged along a chalkboard. He forced himself to focus. There was still one more file. The second video, RLYEH UK_digsite_1996.move. He clicked play. The sunken city. The footage began with a date stamp, the 8th of June, 1996, HMS Triton Dive Op number 47. A deep-sea submersible camera descended through murky green water. Silt swirled like powdered bone. Lights illuminated ancient stone, 3 monolithic pillars etched with spiraling symbols that hurt to look at. The sonar operator whispered off-screen, "Christ, this wasn't formed naturally." A second voice answered. Calm, authoritative. "Commander Alistair Gray." Ethan froze. Gray? The retired OSIU commander. The one who vanished into the Outer Hebrides. On screen, the camera panned to reveal an underwater structure, an entire city. Black pyramids. Bridges. Colossal statues worn by millennia of currents. It resembled a drowned version of an Aztec temple fused with medieval Gothic arches. A marine biologist murmured, This shouldn't exist. Not at Dogger Bank." Then the camera trembled. Something massive moved between the ruins, just a silhouette shifting behind a toppled obelisk. The water pressure gauge spiked, alarms screeching. A low hum vibrated through the speakers, so deep Ethan felt it in his teeth. A voice, female, distorted, echoed through the water. Not English. Not Latin. Something older. Gray hissed, "Cut the feed." Now? The video froze mid-frame and terminated abruptly. Ethan stared at the black screen long after it ended. This was real. All of it. Ronan wasn't insane. And if Gray had been there in '96, he might still know something. Something Ronan wanted Ethan to uncover before the thing in the water devoured the old diver's sanity completely. Ethan grabbed his coat. He was going to Scotland. The call that wasn't a call. As Ethan headed for the door, his phone, silent for hours, buzzed violently. He looked down. Unknown number. No caller ID. Against his better judgment, he answered. Static. A liquid gurgling sound. Then a faint, familiar voice. Ethan. He froze. The deep remembers you. It was a woman's voice. His mother's. But she'd been dead 12 years. Ethan's mind rebelled. Who is this? How are you doing that? Come home, the voice whispered. Come to the water. You left me in the dark, Ethan. Don't leave us again. The line crackled violently, pitch rising, like the shriek of metal twisting underwater. Then a second voice layered beneath the first. Deeper. Inhuman. Almost 3 voices speaking as one. Ethan Harper. Do not hide. He dropped the phone. It kept screaming his name until he ripped the battery out. On the train to Scotland. 6 hours later, Ethan sat alone in a near-empty train rattling north through fog. The rails hummed under him like the heartbeat of a giant creature buried beneath the land. He tried to distract himself with research, searching archived naval statements, missing persons reports, OSIU scandals. But one event dominated the records. The 2023 Challenger Deep disaster. The official report called it a catastrophic hull failure. But the leaked black box transcript from HMS Abyss 1, recorded seconds before disappearing, said otherwise. Ethan read the words again, palms sweating. Kane, the trenches, opening, what the hell, the water's boiling. Sure, Commander, something's rising, focus the light, God, it has eyes. Kane, it's speaking, in my head. Marcus, do you hear? Unintelligible screaming. Metal implosion. End of recording. Ethan slammed the laptop shut. Everything Ronan had warned him about, every whisper from the sea. It all pointed toward one thing. Something ancient was waking beneath the Atlantic. And Ethan's name was on its tongue. Outer Hebrides, Gray's exile. The ferry from Ullapool dropped him onto a wind-beaten island where sheep outnumbered people 20 to 1. Salt hung heavy in the air. Waves smashed violently against black volcanic cliffs. Ethan trekked toward a lonely stone cottage perched near the edge of the world. Smoke curled from the chimney. Someone was home. He knocked. The door opened a crack and a cold, calculating eye stared back. An old man with a white beard, thick eyebrows, and the unfriendly posture of someone trained never to be surprised. Commander Alistair Gray. Ethan Harper, Gray growled. I was told you might come. Ethan's pulse spiked. By who? Gray opened the door wider. By the sea. He gestured inside. Come in. Before it hears us. Gray's warning. Gray's cottage smelled of peat smoke, old books, and iodine. Maps of the Atlantic were pinned across the walls, marked with red circles and violent slashes of black ink. Names were scribbled beside them: Rockall, Dogger Bank, Faro Shelf, Challenger Deep. Ethan Saturday, I saw your 1996 footage from Triton. Gray's jaw clenched. I destroyed all copies of those files. OSIU purged the rest. Not all, Ethan said. Ronan Doyle gave me. Gray grabbed Ethan's collar. Ronan is a dead man walking. If you're mixed up with him, so are you. He said voices were calling his name. They don't call names, Gray growled. They call debts. Ethan stared. Debts? Gray released him slowly. The Leviathan, if that's even its true name, feeds on human minds. Human faith. It was worshipped in the Doggerland era, before the sea swallowed the land. Those rituals carved scars into the ocean floor. Gray pointed to a map. Every spike in missing fishermen, in mass delusions, in rig suicides, they form a pattern. A migration pattern. It woke decades ago, but now it's rising. Ethan swallowed. And it's calling me. Gray hesitated. Then nodded. Because of your bloodline. Ethan blinked. What? You descended from the Scarthin clan, Gray rasped. Ancient coastal guardians near the North Sea. Blood marked for sacrifice. The Leviathan doesn't forget its sacrifices, even across centuries. I don't believe that. You will, Gray said. When you start hearing them in your dreams. I already have. Gray's expression darkened. You're further along than I feared. Ethan's hands trembled in his lap. How do I stop it? Gray sat across from him, grave and resigned. First, you must burn everything Ronan gave you. All evidence. All recordings. The more you see, the louder it calls. Ethan recoiled. Burn it? But this is proof of. Proof won't save you, Gray snapped. Obscurity might. Ethan shook his head. No. I'm not destroying information people died for. If the sea is waking up and hunting us, the world needs to know. Gray exhaled slowly. You're exactly like your mother. Ethan froze. You knew her? Gray nodded. She worked for OSIU before you were born. Brilliant cryptographer. She saw something in the 1990 files, something she shouldn't have. She tried to expose it. Ethan stared, stunned. She drowned in Dover. The Coast Guard said. It wasn't the tide, Gray said, voice low. She jumped. No, Ethan whispered. No, she wouldn't. She was strong. She heard the calling, Gray said. Just as you are now. A heavy silence filled the cottage. Then Gray leaned forward. Tell me, Ethan, when was the first nightmare? Ethan breathed out. 4 nights ago. Gray closed his eyes, as if bracing for impact. You'll have the second tonight. Ethan whispered, what happens in the second? Gray looked at him with pity. You drown. The second nightmare. That night, Gray gave Ethan his own bed. The commander stayed awake in a rocking chair, rifle in hand, facing the door. Ethan tried to sleep. He shouldn't have. The dream began instantly. He stood on the deck of a ship. A vast, black ocean stretched in every direction, waves rising unnaturally tall, their peaks curling like skeletal fingers. Above him, the sky spun with blood-red clouds in spiraling vortices. He tried to move. Chains bound his wrists and ankles. He looked down. The ship wasn't a ship. It was a giant stone altar shaped like a whale's jawbone, carved with symbols he'd seen in the Triton footage. A woman's voice echoed behind him. Ethan. He turned. His mother stood barefoot on the wet deck, long hair dripping seawater, eyes dark wells of sorrow. Why didn't you come home? She whispered. He shook, choking. You're not real. She stepped closer. Water poured from her mouth when she spoke. They are waiting for you, Ethan. They've waited for generations. The sky cracked with thunder. Behind her, the sea split open. Something enormous rose from the abyss, 3 serpentine heads coiling upward, eyes burning red like underwater flares. Its roar shook the world, vibrating through Ethan's bones until he thought they'd shatter. His mother grabbed his face with freezing hands. Don't fight it, she whispered. Your blood belongs to the deep. The altar cracked beneath him. Water surged upward. He was yanked down, chains ripping him into the ocean's throat. He screamed, waking to blood. Ethan jolted awake in Gray's cottage. Gray stood over him, face pale, rifle raised. You were screaming, Gray said. The whole island heard it. Ethan gasped for air, trembling violently. Sweat soaked the sheets. Then he looked at his hands. Red. Sticky. Cold. Blood? Not his. A trail of wet footprints led from the bed to the door, small, barefoot, like a woman's. Ethan's voice cracked. Gray, someone was in here. Gray knelt, touching the bloody footprints. They weren't someone, he whispered. They were an invitation. He looked up at Ethan, terror finally breaking through the hardened military mask. They've marked you. The third dream is the last. Ethan swallowed hard. When will it come? Gray stood slowly. Tonight. Part 3. The seaside hospital was bathed in cold, white neon light. Elias sat on the examination bed, his shoulders tight, his skin pale. Beside him sat Dr. Renford, an older man whose eyes seemed to be hiding something. He read the test results again, completely normal. But his hand was shaking. You said, a call. Renford asked softly, avoiding Elias's eyes. When Elias nodded, the doctor squeezed the pen so hard he thought it might break. If you hear it, don't be alone. And don't let it call you in the water. It was a seemingly absurd statement, but it made the examination room feel a few degrees colder. Elias left the hospital, but the sound of the sea wind had changed, more of a whisper than a scream. He went to the old lighthouse where the old seakeeper Mordecai lived, the man the harbor people said heard the real sea. Mordecai opened the door, looked at Elias for only 5 seconds, then turned away, saying softly, You didn't hear it. It heard you first. Inside were hundreds of seafloor maps, ropes, alarm bells, and scribbled drawings of something, humanoid, but too long, too deep. Before Elias left, Mordecai tugged on his arm, his eyes rolling. When it calls the third time, don't answer. I used to answer. People like us don't have a fourth time. That night, Elias took a shower, trying to relax. But the water stopped running, as if a pipe had been clogged. Then it came crashing down again, this time with water so cold it prickled. A second call came, clearer, slower than the first. Elias, come down. He stumbled back, tripped, his heart pounding. The air in the bathroom seemed to thicken. The water droplets splashed onto the tiles and moved in a spiral toward the drain. He stood up, trembling as he turned off the faucet, but the call continued, not from the drain, but from all the water in the room. Panicked, Elias returned to the lighthouse, but Mordecai was gone. There was no sign of him except for a notebook open on the table. Inside was a maze-like map of an underwater canyon, deeper than science had ever known, noted in red pen. Where it sings. And beneath the text was a swirling symbol identical to the one Elias's drop of water had made. Elias turned the page. A single sentence, scribbled in a hurried, shaky hand. If it chooses you, there is always a reason. News from the harbor. A fishing boat had failed to return. When Elias reached the shore, the police were salvaging the wreckage. An officer shook his head, no survivors. But the strange thing is, their nets only pulled up one object. The officer opened a cold storage box. Inside was a coal-black stone, shaped like a long, shiny skeleton, as if crushed by the water pressure in the darkness for 1,000 years. Elias looked at it, and the call rang out again, not in his ears, but directly in his skull. Closer. He stepped back,